Welcome to VeeBee Coding. You can call me Bee. And this is Bee Bytes, where I take one of my previous tutorials and make a summary. Today's Bee Bytes video is on transferring data from Excel to SQL Server and going over a few different ways of how to make a work table in order to import that data. We'll go over a few quick tricks that are actually not in the original walkthrough, but will help save some time if you have a SQL table that already exists. And then the rest of the video is just building out our create table script using Excel. Starting with our quick tricks, you can do a select into, enter a new table name from the original table. And this will also copy over any information if you wanted to clone. The second option is use the same select into script, but then at the end do where 1 equals 2, and that will clone the table without copying over any data for a clean slate. And then finally, the third quick trick option is you can right click on the table name under your Object Explorer, go to Script Table As, Create To, New Query Editor window, and then you can copy that create table script to a new window. And if it has any identity, like auto-incrementing identity options, take it out. You can leave it as just an integer. Update any not nulls to nulls. So that way it's just more user-friendly. You just want to have a table that you can import into easily and work from, and you can make any edits later on. Going back to our Excel. So above the column names of your data, insert 2 new rows. One row will be where you note the data type, and you can Google search SQL data types as a reference. On another row, we want to enter in the max data size for the column, and then of course we're keeping our original column names for reference. At the top here, you can use that length index Excel formula to find what is the biggest length used within the column. And then I would like to copy those top 3 rows to a new tab, make it easier to work with. You can copy that information again, click somewhere down below, and do Alt-ESE to transpose the information. If you'd like, you can make new column names that you will that you'll use in your SQL table, such as abbreviating names, taking out spaces. And then on the far right, you'll see we basically concatenated all the work that we did so far to build out our create table scripts. And don't forget, there will be some changes, such as for any columns that are dates, you don't need to add in a max length, you would just have the date. Same with timestamp. We wouldn't add that, for example, the 16 you see here, we would just have our timestamp and then the data type or date time type noted. With your create table script already prepared, now we hop over to Management Studio. Copy paste that script into there, highlight and execute. Before you import the Excel data into your new table on your database, make sure that on the tab that you're importing, the column headers are on row 1. And I've noticed that when working with the SQL Express, I've had to save the Excel document as the 97 to 2003 workbook. After you do those 2 checks, you can go back into Management Studio, right-click on your database name, click on Tasks, and on the right-hand side, go down to the last option, or near the last option to import data. A import wizard will appear. So go ahead and select on the file that you want to import. Make sure that the Excel version is correct. For the destination, scroll down or use the drop-down arrow, scroll down to SQL Server. Still on the destination, select on which authentication method that you are using, which is likely whichever authentication method you use to sign in to Management Studio in the first place. And double check that the database is correct at the bottom. On the next screen, you can leave it as that copy data from 1 or more tables or views. Go on to the next screen, This is where you are selecting or checking the boxes for what tabs in your Excel workbook you want to import. And on the right-hand side is where you note which tables in Management Studio you want those tabs to go into. You can either use the drop-down for the tables, or you can just manually type in or copy-paste the table name. Note that if the table is recognized as it not existing yet, then the icon that you see will be this dark gray table icon. And if the import wizard does recognize the table and knows that it exists, then the table icon will look white. Still on the screen, click on Edit Mappings in the bottom right corner, and you'll see a new pop-up appear. This is where you can make sure that all of your Excel columns are mapped to the right SQL table columns. This is also another check where if you see that the sizes seem to all default to 255, that could mean that on the previous page, the table that you entered is not recognized. So make sure that there are no typos here. You can keep hitting next. On this page, you can leave the two drop-downs as is, hit next. On this screen, keep it as run immediately, hit next. On the final screen, you can double check that you did in fact select the correct Excel file. Make sure it's going to the right table and hit finish. And when it's all done, it'll show you how many rows were imported, as well as if any errors come up, you can view them here too. Then you can do a select on the table that you imported the data into, execute it, and see how it looks. And then finally, for any extra cleanup, if you were working in your Excel file, you had some scratch notes below your data, you deleted it, but when it got imported, some of those rows at the bottom may have still been imported but as nulls. So you can use a delete from script. Just make sure that you are including a where clause to make sure you are deleting what needs to be deleted. Always use begin tran rollback commit. Highlighting from begin tran through the where clause, execute. Once you confirm that the number of rows impacted is correct, and you can do another select star on your table to make sure it still looks good. If those checks are all good to go, then you can highlight commit, hit execute, and that'll save your changes. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out the original video for a full walkthrough. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.